This year, the commemoration of the late General Sec of the SACP and the Chief of Staff of Umkhonto weSizwe comes a day after the centenary of our late Central Committee member, Comrade Brian Bunting. Comrade Bunting joined the Communist Party of South Africa in 1940, exactly 8 years ago, meaning that he participated in the CPSA, which today we call it the South African Communist Party, 10 years before the Suppression of Communism Act of 1950. Brian Bunting participated in the 1946 mine workers' strike, in which inspired the founding slogan of the ANC Youth League, Freedom in Our Lifetime. In 1998, he rightfully became the first recipient of the Moses Kotane Award at the 10th Congress of the SACP, together with Billionaire, and unfortunately, he left the world of the living a decade later. Both Chris Hani and Comrade Brian Bunting were seasoned communists who understood the pain of being defined as a foreigner and illegal in your own land of birth, and lived in exile to fight for freedom against the barbaric apartheid capitalist exploitation. Today, while the religious people are commemorating Easter and Passover, to us as communists, it reminds us that the assassination of Comrade Chris took place exactly at the same Easter weekend in 1993. Sadly, this year, the commemoration of this day happens and takes place while the country and the whole world is battling with a stubborn pandemic of COVID-19. Moreover, a stubborn pandemic, and noting the pronouncement of a further 14 days extension by the President of the Republic, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa. Globally, governments are fighting to cap the spread of COVID-19, while other countries have unfortunately experienced a death on large scale. The public health system, even of some powerful capitalist countries, is left naked, full of deficiencies, policies that act in favor of commercialization of health and the capitalist profits. In South Africa, the pandemic has made an urgent the call for the implementation of the National Health Insurance as a means to provide a coverage in the interest of our health as a public good, not a commodity. Therefore, the YCLSA has joined the call by the SACP for our private health facilities to provide free healthcare services and testing and support to the poor and the working class during these difficult times. It was Comrade Chris Hani's ambition, by the way. Much it was a resolution of the SACP that he has spearheaded very well, that the medical care and support should be made free and compulsory. This resolution remains an agent for the poor and the marginalized workers. The YCLSA welcomes the announcement by the President for a further addition of 14 days to the 21 days lockdown, which started on the 26th of March this year. However, the lockdown remains a response to the urgent health crisis of COVID-19, not necessarily a response to the socio-economic conditions of the working class as a whole. Students will be expected, indeed, and to study online, remain at home. Some in rural areas will find it difficult to do that because a reality is that there's no network coverage and they have less data to can be able to access such. The YCL will continue to fight for government to enforce measures to supply and avail data to our students, especially during this difficult time, so that they can be able to access internet and be able to further their studies. We are pleased that the Department of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, with the management of institutions and our student leaders, have managed to try to make means that NFSAS continues to provide allowances to those that are deserving and qualifies to get such. But this extension of the lockdown means that the TVET students who were supposed to write their trimester exams will either have to require to write online or their academic calendar will be severely affected because of these delays. Either way, the reality is unfortunate, because we hope that these exams will not be migrated online without any adequate training to ensure that ICT skills are given to our students. We have to write these things because TVETs are the most affected even in terms of technology. Another sad reality is that many young people will experience even the harsher socio-economic realities post this lockdown. Many jobs are at risk. Many checks away from unemployment. Given this reality, the YCL will make a proposal to government so that at least we can mitigate this reality. In the immediate, the government should exercise their expected responsibility in building a capable developmental state and interventions that will respond to the challenges that are facing the working class and the poor. The president should equally condemn the populism that we have seen over the days. The national disaster should not be an issue that gives others a point of scoring or trying to be popular. This should not be a nightmare to the working class and the poor. The YCL, as part of the global communist youth movements, and recently we have signed and issued a statement together that we are calling for some interventions that must happen across the world, especially within the public health system because of this pandemic. We demand that the public health system in all countries to be reinforced with state funding, and that the efforts to the medical and nursing staff get to be strengthened now and beyond. The necessary protection means to be provided for free to everyone, especially the protective equipments that are needed in order for our health workers to be able to execute their task correctly. The working rights of the workers to be protected, and there must never be any dismissals or salary reductions, especially to the poor of the poorest, and not even any curtailment of a democratic right or an opportunity for some to introduce their neoliberal agenda because of this particular pandemic. And to take all necessary measures to protect the health and the life of each and every person, because one life lost is too many. We say no to the imperialist interventions and the economic sanctions that continues to take place, especially under these difficult times, led by the US imperialism. And today, as we continue to celebrate and commemorate the life and times of Comrade Chris, as the YCLSA, we say that we still want to be like Comrade Chris Hani. And we believe this pandemic has shown us that as capitalism has no solution for the world, and this global pandemic has made an urgent call, in essence, that a socialist world order is needed as much as it has to be introduced. And we believe that with this commemoration, we will continue to honor Comrade Chris, being disciplined people and making sure that we follow all the regulations that our government has stipulated, has put in trying to combat this pandemic, and make sure that it does not affect everyone, especially around the issue of the working class youth. Amandla.